The Brutality unveiled Commander Zaraki of the Celestial Alliance stood frozen at her command console as the battle recordings played across the holographic display. Her forearms trembled slightly, while her violet eyes widened in complete disbelief. The images before her showed something that challenged everything she understood about warfare and civilization. The human vessel named Liberty Dawn had been outnumbered 12-1 by the savage Korthak raiders. Yet somehow these strange bipedal creatures had not only survived but completely annihilated their attackers. The tactical analysis made no logical sense to any member of her crew. Captain Lisa Morgan appeared on the communication screen. Her brown hair was matted with sweat, and her green eyes held a coldness that made Zaraki step backward. The human woman spoke with a calm voice that somehow made her words even more terrifying. The Korthak had attacked a human colony ship carrying 10,000 civilians, including children. The raiders had demanded surrender and threatened to space every living soul aboard. The standard protocol for any civilized species would be immediate compliance to save innocent lives. Lisa Morgan had responded by ramming her military escort directly into the largest Korthak battleship. The collision had torn both vessels apart, but the explosion created a debris field that trapped the remaining enemy ships. Then the humans did something that defied all military doctrine. They used their own people as weapons. Small human fighters piloted by volunteers crashed into Korthak engines while broadcasting their names and messages to loved ones. Each pilot chose certain death to disable enemy vessels. The recordings captured their final words of love and determination. Zaraki watched in horror as human soldier Amy Johnson detonated herself inside a Korthak boarding tunnel. The explosion sealed the breach and saved hundreds of civilians, but the casual way the human accepted death disturbed every fiber of the alien commander. The most disturbing moment came when the Korthak commander tried to negotiate. He offered to spare half the human civilians in exchange for surrender. The human response came from a young officer named Kelly Thompson, who appeared barely old enough for military service. Kelly had calmly explained that humans do not negotiate with those who threaten children. Then she activated something called a Nova torpedo that turned 3 Korthak ships into expanding balls of plasma. The weapon was clearly experimental and highly unstable, but the humans used it without hesitation. When the battle ended, only the human colony ship remained intact. 10,000 civilians lived because their protectors had chosen to die rather than submit to evil. The final transmission showed Captain Morgan standing in her damaged bridge surrounded by the bodies of her crew. She looked directly at the Alliance monitoring station and spoke words that would haunt Zaraki forever. The human said that her species had learned long ago that some things are worth any sacrifice. Peace without freedom means nothing, and children deserve a future, even if adults must die to provide it. The recording ended, but Zaraki continued staring at the empty display. Her tactical officer, Genra, spoke in a whisper, asking how creatures capable of such violence could also show such devotion to protecting innocents. Navigator Beth Williams had been captured during the battle and brought aboard the Alliance vessel for medical treatment. The young human woman had lost her left arm but refused sedation until she could confirm that the colony ship had reached safety. When informed that all 10,000 civilians had survived, Beth simply nodded and closed her eyes. She never complained about her injury or requested compensation for her sacrifice. The medical team reported that she spent her recovery time writing letters to the families of deceased crew members. Zaraki found herself questioning everything about warfare and civilization. Her species had always viewed combat as a necessary evil to be minimized and concluded quickly. The Alliance military doctrine emphasized preservation of life and strategic withdrawal when facing superior numbers. Humans appeared to view warfare as something entirely different. They fought not to win battles but to protect what they considered sacred. Their willingness to embrace death for abstract concepts like freedom and justice seemed almost primitive, yet impossibly noble. The intelligence reports revealed that this was not an isolated incident. Human military history contained countless examples of individuals sacrificing themselves for others. They had words like kamikaze and suicide mission that other species found disturbing yet somehow admirable. What truly unsettled Zaraki was realizing that human brutality and human compassion sprang from the same source. Their capacity for violence existed only because of their capacity for love. They fought with such ferocity because they cared so deeply about protecting others. 3 days later, the Alliance received a formal communication from the human government. They thanked the Alliance for monitoring the battle and requested permission to establish a joint military training program. The humans wanted to share their tactical knowledge with Alliance forces. The proposal included detailed specifications for Nova torpedoes and ramming maneuvers, along with psychological profiles of effective volunteer pilots. The humans offered to teach other species how to fight with the same desperate courage they had displayed. Zaraki realized with growing unease that her superiors would probably accept the human offer. The Alliance had been losing territory to various raider groups for decades. Their civilized approach to warfare was proving inadequate against enemies who showed no mercy. Yet something deep in her consciousness recoiled at the thought of learning human methods. She understood that accepting their knowledge would fundamentally change who the Alliance was as a civilization. They would gain military effectiveness, but lose something essential about their peaceful nature. The final report from the incident included a personal message from Captain Morgan. The human woman had survived her injuries and been promoted to admiral. She wrote that she hoped the Alliance would never need to fight as desperately as humans do, but offered friendship and support if such dark times ever came. Reading those words, Zaraki felt a complex mixture of admiration and terror. The humans had revealed themselves as both the most violent and most protective species in the galaxy. Their willingness to die for others made them incredibly dangerous enemies and incredibly valuable allies. She filed her report recommending cautious engagement with human military forces, while privately wondering if the galaxy was ready for such powerful friends.